What is up, you guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we have a new face on this video. This is my cousin who came down from another state. He's been living out of state for a while, so I just have not seen him for a few years, and now he's back for the holidays in Arizona, and he hit me up right away as soon as he got in town, and he asked me to cut him up. So we agreed to give him a mullet. He's shaking his head. We're talking about it. You guys will see us talking the whole time because I've not seen him in so long, but I'm gonna do my thing, you guys. I've never done a mullet before, so this is the first time. So I went ahead and brushed his hair. I wanted to part it, wanted to separate it so I knew what I was doing. He did show me this picture that he wanted it to look like, and I said I'll go ahead and do that, but I'll definitely blend it a lot better than the picture you showed me. His hair was a little greasy, so when I used my scissors right now just to try and like trim some of the sides right there before I started cutting into it, it was really slick and kind of tough to cut. So if you guys are able to wash your client's hair before you cut it, definitely do it because it'll just make the whole haircut process a lot easier. So as you guys can see, I created that first little guideline on the side, and now I'm going to use my number 3 guard with the lever closed just a little bit to trim a lot of this bulk down. From all the pictures I've seen, I assumed I just needed to focus mainly on the hair no more than about the halfway point on the back of the ear. So as you guys can see, I'm just trimming up behind that area, getting this all nice and cut down. And right after that, I'm going to start blending, creating my second guideline with the lever halfway closed. Right after that, I'm going to close the lever all the way and blend that line out quickly, focusing on just using the corner of the blade. Next, I have the number 1 guard with the lever, I believe, all the way open, and I'm creating that third guideline now. Throughout this process with the number 1 guard, I'm slowly just closing that lever little by little until I get to the fully closed position, and I can no longer blend it out with that number 1 guard, and that's when I'll go ahead and switch it to the half guard right here, lever about halfway closed, and just start blending into that number 1 line. Blending into that number 3 that we did previously, now with the number 1.5 guard. I would say the hardest part on this haircut was just getting behind the ears right here, making sure that behind the ears was blended nicely without irritating and kind of nicking his ears. From there, it's all just down fading, so we're just going to go to the next guard down, which would be the number 1 guard. Lever about halfway closed and just blending nicely into that 1.5. It's blending out really good, and I was very happy with how easy his hair was blending out. Right after that, I'm just going to do some clipper over comb with the number 1 guard still attached. Just wanted to debulk some of that hair that I wasn't able to get with the number 3 guard, and doing this clipper over comb technique really helped to blend it down nicely. Right after that, I attached the number 2 guard with the lever all the way closed, and I just started to blend into that line that you guys can see is still visible. Definitely one of my favorite parts of the cut is just cleaning up the C-cup area, the lineup area, getting all that extra hair out the way, cleaning up behind the ears, because this part of the cut really makes the haircut pop and just makes it stand out a lot more. If you do have trouble at times cleaning up behind someone's ear, go ahead and pull up on that skin, stretch it a little more, and it'll just give you a little more surface room to play with. I don't know about y'all, but I really like the way this haircut had come out so far, so I was definitely excited to get this other side done that was very long as well. Just wanted to cut all that hair that was overlapping his hair just a little bit before I went in with the number 3. That way I wasn't like gouging at his ear when I was cleaning it up. But I couldn't cut it with the scissors, so I just grabbed the little Andy Slimline Pros and trimmed around the ear before I came with this number 3 guard and started cleaning up all around the ears and just this whole side piece. Creating that first guideline with the Babyliss FX trimmers after debulking with the number 3. Right after that, I'm going to go ahead with no guard on the clippers and the lever halfway closed and create that second guideline. Following that, the lever will go fully closed and we'll blend that out right away. Now to blend down some of that number 3, I got the number 2 guard and I'm just going to kind of continue to debulk that area. To blend out that number 2, I have the number 1.5 guard, and as you guys can see, I'm kind of doing a little different route than what I did on the opposite side. I actually was making layers using the number 1 guard and whatnot, but on this side I kind of just started down fading from the top area instead. You guys can see that the cape isn't even on like him fully because he didn't want to take off his hoodie, so I just worked with what we had. But as you guys have seen, after that 1.5 guard, I went with the number 1 guard, created that guideline, and then now I'm blending out that number 1 guard using the half guard. Whatever I don't blend out with this half guard, I'll just go ahead and take the guard off and start blending out that line as necessary. Now you guys will notice behind his ear I left like a long strand of hair. Not too sure why I didn't like cut it off and start blending that around the ear as much as I did the opposite end, but towards the end of the cut I do fix it up and make sure to blend it nicely. Don't worry, I am aware I did not fully blend out that line that right there towards the bottom. I just wanted to clean this area up with a C-cup. Looks so nice, you guys, nice and sharp. I did keep the ends on both sides very dark compared to the rest of the hair, but it's just because, in my opinion, it gives it a nice, good outline. Now cleaning up that little bottom piece with the lever probably halfway to almost 75% closed, remembering only to use the corner of the blade, that way I'm not pushing up on that line and it really allows me just to focus on a certain area that needs to be blended. Doing a little bit of cleanup work with that number 1 guard, and right after that I'm going to use my Andy Slimline Pros and just knock out that very bottom line that I wasn't able to get with the wall magic clippers. Back on the right side of his head, and I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup work, just touching up anything that I didn't like the blend of it and just making sure that I can knock out any lines that I see. That way I can make sure that both sides are even. Just cleaning up his C-cup area a little bit more before I clean up the back of his neck. I just went ahead and put some clips and some of those like little sticky things to hold the hair, and I'm doing my best just to clean up around the bottom area just to get all that little nappy hair out the way. Doesn't have to be perfect and doesn't have to be like full of detail in the back because the bottom of his hair is going to cover all of this, so it's not super important for me to get it all nice and tapered in the back. So like I said earlier, I really should have just washed his hair out before cutting, especially now doing the top. He definitely wanted that trimmed because it was very long. So I just honestly did a little bit of clipper over comb style, grabbed it in my hands and just cut whatever sat over my fingers. It was quite a bit of hair, but it came out pretty good. Right after that, I went ahead with the number 2 guard and just started going with the grain on his facial hair because he did want to keep a lot of that length. And I'm really just going to clean up all around underneath the neck, on the sides, and his mustache area just to make it look a lot cleaner than what it currently is. I wasn't happy with how much the number 2 took off. I wanted it just a little bit shorter, especially around the mustache area. It was really thick right there. So I'm just closing the lever a little bit at a time until I was happy with the length of the hair. And right after that, I'm going to grab my Babyliss FX trimmers and just start cleaning everything underneath the neckline area. My cousin does have a pretty good sized Adam's apple, so the video is sped up, but in real time I was going pretty slow and just being very gentle and careful with what I was cutting. For the side right here, I just like to brush the hair to the side. It would be better if I would have grabbed my beard brush, but I just use a comb. And right here, I'm just kind of hovering over the hair, not digging into it at all, just trying to clip a lot of those flyaway hairs. For his facial hair, I just wanted to blend kind of like the top portion of it just to make it look a little nicer and to kind of match the side of his hair, how it's all skinned down. So I used no guard. I believe the lever was like almost fully closed. Then I used the number 1 guard to create kind of like another guideline. And to blend out that number 1 guideline, I'm using the half guard. And after that, I'm going to probably go to like a number 2 or 3 just to kind of trim down any extra hair if needed. Now on the opposite end, I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'm not really trying to push the line all the way up to like his jawbone line. My cousin does have a very nice and strong jawbone line, but I wanted to keep the facial hair looking thick. That's exactly what he asked for, so that's what I'm trying to do my best at on giving him. Just like most people with your facial hair, one side is always going to look a little different from the other, so I did do my best to try and make sure that it was even on both sides. And right here I'm just kind of like hovering around the facial hair just to make sure I can get all those flyaway hairs nice, and just to make the facial hair, the beard, look nice and tamed. Now moving on to his mustache area, this part was honestly very hard for me because I didn't know like really how to shape it, because I've never really seen my cousin with facial hair like this. So I honestly kind of just tried to mimic how I would do my own. I didn't want to make it too thin because the mustache was pretty thick, so I didn't want it to look weird. But I went ahead and just cleaned up everything touching the lip, and grabbed my Andy Slimline Pros after this to clean up everything under the nose area. I really liked using these, especially on the facial hair area or any area that you just have a small like surface area to work with. These just work really good, and the blade being as small as they are just come in handy more than none. I applied some shave gel to the side of his cheek area, and I'm not digging into the hair like pretty much at all. I'm going to clean around his eyebrow area too because he asked me. But just cleaning up everything, the lineup area, around the C cup, and just making sure everything looks nice and sharp, nice and clean. Having your client make a bubble with their cheek really helps when you're doing the facial hair area, and just pulling and stretching on the skin. That way you can try to prevent yourself from nicking the customer as much as possible. So something you guys didn't see, I could have sworn I did record it, but I added some beard oil to his beard just to keep a lot of that hair tamed, so it wasn't looking all crazy. But he did want to keep a lot of that thickness, a lot of the length. I'm not going to add any enhancements, you guys. I don't even have any enhancements. I almost never use it for clients, but I will be honest, if I did have some, I would have added a lot of dark brown to his facial hair area, just where you could see like some of his skin where it's see-through, especially right there, and maybe like on the corners of his hair just to match with the top. He was supposed to send me a video what his hair looked like after he washed it and cleaned it, but he was whack. He didn't do it. He didn't send me it, you guys. So I'm honestly not too sure like how perfect it came out, but I mean, I think it looks good, you guys. Yeah, his hair was greasy and long, but that's exactly how he wanted it. It looks a lot better from what it did before. There was a lot of detail that went into this cut, especially cleaning up this beard part. I just kept going back and touching it up, but I think it looks really good, you guys. Look at the beginning. That's so crazy. My man was looking homeless, bummy, like he's begging for money. Yo, this thing came out super clean, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to 100 subscribers. I'm super stoked, especially for still not promoting that I even have a YouTube channel. I just do this for fun, you guys. I have a lot of fun with it, and I appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Thank you guys so much, and have a great week. Peace.
Father told me to repent, I had to trash my sins. I done did some things before, I never do